the first thing I will do is make a solution, a web application, and I've cheated a little bit, just find the folder and giving them some names that could be used, but then the rest will be done from scratch. So we start up making the web application like a web project, and in this case I will choose an empty one still, because I don't want all the stuff coming from all the templates. So I make an empty one, but of course there will be the folders used for MVC, so I will have this crossed off. And you can see here that you could actually, if you choose one like this one, you can change the authentication, and then you can choose which kind of authentication you want to, but then you will have a large template with, I think there will be an about page, and there will be different other pages, so it might be a good idea if you are making a complete solution, of course, but if you are just going for learning stuff, then keep it as simple as possible. Yes?
From my experience choosing MVC there, that secures you get all the packages.
Yeah.
So it maybe might be a good idea to do.
Yeah, if you want to do it for a project in practice, yes, but not for learning, because you got a lot of confusing stuff maybe, and if you are changing something and there's more to change, then you also have more problem to discover what's going on. So that's why I choose the simple one for learning purpose. But of course, if you make a project, then it's the same. If you want to make a project where you also would put on the same web server hosting your web API, then of course if you mark this one, you will also get included the correct DLL, and you will have the folders for that. And if you're on the same one also want to use web forms, then of course it would be a good idea also having the template for that, because it's difficult to change when you have done it. But you could always do the other way around, that you make a new project and then you copy all the stuff you have already done to the new project in the end. It's not so big a problem, only if you change the namespace. So if you change the name of the project, then you will have changed the default namespace, and then of course there will be more changes. But I will choose this one, and just also for the record, you can also, if you want to have if you only have one server, one web server running, then of course you could put your VCF solution on the same. So it doesn't matter if you have both your services running on the same server, but of course there could be something about speed. If you're having that in mind, if you made a balance, then you could have the stuff behind on another server, and then split up the resources. And for education purpose, again, it might be a good idea separate the project, because if you don't separate the project and you have web API in the same project as you, and VCF service in the same project, then you might sometimes just call the class instead of having them used as a services, and maybe you don't realize that you are just using them like regular classes and not like services. So maybe it's a good idea make this split up. But we may make a MVC one. So now we are ready, and we got a lot of references to store, and we got also all these folders, and so it's just a template. Actually, you could find a few years ago a template where you got a complete web solution with guestbook and all that stuff from the beginning. So it's of course easy to start up if you don't want to change the basic part, but it's also sometimes might be a problem in learning process when you are a beginner, because you got a lot of stuff that you may not know about and you don't need to know about mixed into all the rest. So the first thing we will do is making a controller, and we need to decide if we just should use this for test and having more actions for different kind, so we can still use the same controller for the different kind of ListBox we want to try, or we should make a new controller for everyone. But I think that for now it might be not so much code. It's a little bit easier if we print it out, then we only have one file, so we probably just put it in the same controller. But it would be a good idea having more controllers, so you still have the idea that one controller should take care of things that really have something to do with each other. So we need some kind of high cohesion, and then if we can manage to have low coupling at the same time, it will be nice. And if we make a new model every time we have a new view, then we might have much code, but we actually have low coupling. So it might be not every time that we make high cohesion and low coupling we have a good solution. But anyway, we make one controller, and let's see the name of it. So I might actually choose this one because it might give me a little bit help, and then I can just remove the rest of it. So I will choose some template here just to get it a little bit easy, so I don't need to write so much code, and I have something to look at. This one will give me one action for each of the standard, one for listing, one for display data, one for editing, one for create, and one for delete. So I will call it ListBox because that's the start-off thing is trying to make some kind of ListBox. Might be not the best name, but I think that will give us some idea what's going on. So, and you can see here now we got an index that we could use. We have, and for the index it's only one. There's no post for the index, so it might be something we can use for just display stuff. Then you can see if we have a detail, that's where we also just want to display stuff. We don't have a post for that. For the create, you can see there is the get and the post. So in this case, you can see now we got the default that we got this form collection, so it doesn't know what we are doing, so we don't have a model. So but then we have this as a default, and then there will be the rest of them. Probably we could just get rid of most of them. So if because we want to make a list box, and we could just display it, but we probably also want to see that we could select one of them, so we need a post back. So the create one could be used for that, and this one we just skip them. So this one skip, and this, the rest we can skip them as well. I think that's it. Yeah. Yeah. So what I have now is, you can say, a template for, so I can see that I have a a startup method where we actually just are calling without having any parameters, just the URL address. And then here we got the post back, and that's what we need. So now we have something to look on. So let's start from, we could just have an empty controller and do all the stuff, but now we have just been around that we have some to look at later. So let's try to make the first part. So we will make public action result, and then we need a name. So we could make this called simple I know that the name might not be the best one if we do something for real, but for showing it might give you a lot of information. So this might be a good idea, starting up just having this one. And then return view. So now we got a startup one. A little bit later we also need a post, because we need to select one of the element, and then we need to have it back. So the next step will be that we need some kind of view, and again the simple one will be just choosing one of them, and then but if we should choose one of them where we have some of the element put in beginning, we need a model. So, and maybe we could just make a model now, because we might need it later. So let's make a model. So class, and call it currency. Can spell correctly, currency. And what do we need in a currency? We need 3 elements. Public, the first one should be a string. Normally I wouldn't write with capital letters, but yes, there were nobody with an apple that no. The ISO is a shorten, so that might be okay. I think just write it with capital letters. So we should have a get and a set for that. Oh, not, yeah. Set, so that's it. Then we need another one with a name. It's in the currency, so of course it's the currency name. It's not the country. I would have done that, but euro is not a country, so it's actually the name of a currency. So, and then the last one, we need the exchange rate, and that might be a double. Like this. So now we actually got a module. And I just do that because we need it later, and when I want to make the first list, I actually don't use it, but to make it easy to create a template with some of the stuff, I need a model. So and I need it later when we make a little bit more complex one. So now we can go back and say I want to build a view, and I actually want it to be based on a model. So, and I what I'm thinking is that I need to bring something back, so I need some kind of post, because when I select one, I will have a post back. This is just for showing data, so there will be no post. So this will be good because there is a post when we make an edit. Then of course we send information, and we'll have a post, and the create will also be one of them. I can choose, because both of them will have some field that we can see, and then we will have to change them and make a post for new data. So probably this will be a good idea for some of the stuff, and this one will actually be good if I will have a view where I have a for construction, because then I can see how to do that. So maybe later we could make just an extra view to instead of going and find the logic and see how it's done, then we can make some kind of taking a look at the template, and then we know what to do. But I think for the first one, I just want this one, so I take a template for create, and then I had this one, so this should be done, and then add. You can see in the bottom we got some JavaScript included, and one of them that might be interesting later is something like this one, because there is some validation rule we can put in, and if we don't have the JavaScript, then some of these validation rules will not work. So we got the form, and then we got some kind of div tag and a header that we can use, and then I think we'll just skip the rest. So this one, I can actually also skip the validation. So this one. So you can see mostly nothing is left. Yes?
Why the script at the bottom? Why is that not in the master view?
I don't know. It's a template, so they mix it with the default view. So you got some default. You can see here in the beginning also you are passing something here. So it has something to do with that, but I'm not quite sure how they made the mix, because they are mixed with, you have a template, and when you actually are returning this one is passed after you, if you put some code into the default, you will see that this is done first, and then it returns to the default, and then it mixes it up. So the only idea I have is that it might be because when you are looking at the stuff, then it will be nicer to have it in the bottom, because you don't want to look at it.
But
yeah.
Is included in the main view, but the bottom of the
So you are saying that in my default
layout,
this shared, yes.
The layout one.
Yeah. So, but I can maybe change that. So, and then yeah, yeah. Maybe it will be compiled. So anyway, in the end, it's not like if you have been working with some of the language like PHP and so on, this is compiled. So it will not in the end be like you see it here. It will be binary code that generate the HTML. And so a lot of this will actually be like you have a document write line. So you put them in. So and there might be some reason that we don't know because of the guys that made this kind of mixing them. So maybe I could figure out if made some research, but I don't think it's important for the basic part. That will be something that might be something you could go and look for if you want to make some more complex one. Yes.
So
yes.
How many diff plans you removed?
I just removed all the stuff for all the fields. So the only thing I left back was this one, the create one. So I had a bottom, and I could give it a new value as well. I only have one bottom, so I don't need just now, but what else I could. And this one actually I could remove this one. This is a simple way of making the HTML code for an anchor. So it has the URL address and then a text. So let's try to fill it out with a list box. So now we will try to make a simple list box. And what should we choose for a list box if we are making pure HTML? What is its name? You remember, some of you? A list box where we select something from in clean HTML. It's called select. So we got this one, select. So and inside this we can have some options. Yes. So we got this one. This is a class. You know, HTML will be a class, so it's a structure. So this is the main class, and then it has some children in it, which is the element we are actually showing. We need to give it a name, and the name is actually important because the name will be what we actually are passing back to when we're making a post. So if we don't have a name, we cannot send anything back. So we give it a name. We don't need to give it an ID. You know, if we have element in HTML, we might give them a unique ID that will be what we need if we want to change the document in JavaScript. But for now, we don't need that one, but we need it to pass information back when we select an element, and that's the name of the list. So we give it a name, and the intelligent helped me a little bit. So we could call it let's just call it select box instead of calling it a list box. Then we can remember it's actually the select one. And then we put information into it, and it will be what we call an option. So an option is something we can select. The content we see is always text. So that's one of the things we should have in mind. When we use a list box in a Windows application, you will also have some text you look at. So it will be the same here. So we might, for instance, say DKK. Just have a look at the. So we could just copy some of them. So we got USD, American, we got Euro. If we make 3, that would be enough, I think. So let's just make